to the York Hall in Bethnal Green, that famous fighting cauldron in the East End. Plenty of action really with fighters from around the world this evening, as far afield as Ukraine and Nigeria, India and Bulgaria. And plenty of heavyweight action as well, the headline of which is a 10-rounder for the Southern Area Heavyweight title. But our first fight is another heavyweight affair, 6 3-minute rounds between Youri Yelistratov from the Ukraine and this fella making his way to the ring now, Peter Oboh from Nigeria. Nick Halling along with Bob Mee describing the action, and as I say, plenty of fireworks expected. Peter Oboh unbeaten, but normally Bob campaigns as a cruiserweight, so he's going up a notch tonight.
Yes, I feel it's going to be a major problem for him already. He's conceding 2 stones to a Ukrainian by the name of Youri Yelistratov, who is supposed to be a good fighter. From those who've seen him say he's quite a dangerous opponent.
Well, he was scheduled to meet Scott Welch in Newcastle last month, this fella, Yelistratov, unbeaten, the Ukrainian, which would suggest that he's a pretty useful customer, because Welch is certainly moving up through the rankings.
That's right, Yelistratov. Well, I can understand why Welch wouldn't want to box him, because they didn't know too much about him and they preferred to have a look at him first. It was fairly short notice, so I think that was a sensible decision and no reflection on Welch. But nevertheless, Yelistratov has had a couple of good wins recently in Europe, and well, it's interesting to see him here in London.
Making his British debut, the Ukrainian.
Ladies and gentlemen, a very good evening and welcome to the Oboh Bethnal Green for tonight's professional boxing, proudly presented by Frontline and Paris Promotions, sponsored by Liberty, Nike, Hercules, MTV. And welcome our viewers joining us here on Eurosport, Live TV and Star Sport in the Far East. Ladies and gentlemen, our officials have been invited by the British Boxing World Control, steward in charge, John Clifford, Chief Inspector, Charlie Payne. Our first contest is an international heavyweight contest. Firstly, I introduce you to fighting out the blue corner. He's wearing the white trunks, trimmed with blue, weighing in at 14 stone. He's from Nigeria, which is business in Peter Oboh.
Introductions for Peter Oboh, but at 14 stone, as you said, Bob, very, very light.
He's one of the Paul Johnson, weighing at 16 stone and 2 pounds. He's from the Ukraine, which you please welcome, Youri Yelistratov.
So a 2 stone and 2 pounds weight advantage for the Ukrainian.
Your referee is Tony Walker, and this is 6 training rounds.
The third man in the ring, Tony Walker, the referee for this contest. And it's scheduled for 6 3-minute rounds. 2 fighters protecting unbeaten records, but one of them, the fellow on the right there, Peter Oboh, stepping up from cruiserweight and giving away a lot of poundage.
He's tall though, Nick. When they stood together in the centre of the ring, he must be a couple of inches taller.
Yeah, but the first thing you notice, Bob, is you look at his legs, there's not a lot there really.
That's right.
Built like an athlete. So scheduled for 6. And the Ukrainian forcing his opponent into a corner early, but Oboh gets himself out of there.
Oboh's also a southpaw, which Yelistratov may or may not have known.
Getting a warning from Mr. Walker for use of the head. And Oboh has a win in Britain to his credit as well. Stopped the Welshman, Tim Redman, back in October. But the suggestion is that Yelistratov is going to be a very tough proposition for him. And that 30-pound weight difference could be very significant. And again, having just incurring the wrath of Mr. Walker. That's a couple of warnings already in this first round. Yelistratov just looking there to unload really for the first time. Well, early days, of course, Bob, but the Russian certainly getting the respect of Oboh.
Yes, we can expect Oboh at this stage to be faster because he's so much lighter, and I would expect him to have the better of the early stages, but really it's a case of what happens when Yelistratov nails him, when he starts to use his strength, if he does. If he starts to use his strength and power, then the question is, can Oboh take it? Oboh, I would think, would probably have the better of the early stages just because of the extra hand speed and foot speed.
That's certainly the way this first round is going at the moment. Yelistratov very, very cagey at the moment, not really unloading, not taking too many chances.
Seems a bit of blood in the Ukrainian's mouth as well. He's been roughed up a bit, hasn't he, on those ropes?
Well, Oboh has really bored in on him right from the start, which I think is a smart strategy. Get inside, get in close. And he's not afraid to rub his head around there. And the Ukrainian certainly reddening.
Yes, it's a surprise. I would have expected Oboh to be on his toes as well, moving and jabbing and using his height and reach, and he's bowled straight into him and got on with the job in a bit of a surprising fashion. A bit rough as well, holding and hitting there on the inside.
Oh yeah, he's not... So it's Peter Oboh from Nigeria posing the questions as we get round 2 underway. Now, what kind of answers does Youri Yelistratov from the Ukraine have? There's a couple of good shots there, but has got Oboh backed up and in a little bit of trouble.
Yes, he felt those, didn't he? That was the first sign. He felt those. He didn't like that very much.
2-punch combination, and Oboh definitely felt it.
It looked as if it took a lot out of him as well, didn't it? He looked as if he didn't really fancy it in there.
Well, he stayed in his corner afterwards and is still lurking in there. This is a very, very different approach from the last round when he was boring in on his opponent. He's keeping his distance now. Maybe he knows Yelistratov can hurt him. Just starting to settle, perhaps. Getting the head clear. But he certainly does want to find himself pinned in a corner with a man 30 pounds heavier than him.
That's what he's doing though. He's got to get out of there, hasn't he? He's got to move, got on his legs and move. That's it. And just get away from the corners. He stays there, he's just going to absorb punishment.
And Yelistratov's got him back there again. At least he's doing some work now, Oboh, but the first round so successful for him where he was forcing the pace. These little cuffing blows there, not really doing too much damage, and Yelistratov is not letting him out of there. Light hitting. A lot of flurry and a lot of leather being thrown, but that's not going to bother Yelistratov too much. And I don't see the Nigerian absorbing 5 rounds of that.
No, he's got to change tactics. He's got to do something and have an answer to that. If he, as you say, if he stands in corners, he's just going to get stopped.
Into the neutral corner, but he launched a counter-attack from there. Good body shot, good left hand from Yelistratov. But it's a scrappy affair. I tell you, Oboh is pretty good at covering up and disrupting his opponent's rhythm. Tough man to hit cleanly, the Nigerian. Yelistratov's got him backed up again, but still can't really find an awful lot. A little shot got through there.
Yelistratov's got in too close. He wants to stand back a pace and then let the punches go. He went far too close and he's now cut, I think.
Definitely a cut around the right eye. Heads have been banging together here, Bob. I don't think a punch has caused that.
That's right, I agree. The heads have clashed straight in. I think the referee's going to have time out now.
It looks an ugly one.
No, the referee's warned him for holding and hitting.
And that looks a messy cut.
Yes, it seems to be over the right eye, on the eyebrow itself.
And that is very bad news for Youri Yelistratov. If it's to the side or underneath, they'll usually let him carry on with just a bit of a brush and a polish. But if it's over the eye, this could be trouble.
He's letting it go.
He's letting it go. But Yelistratov better step on the pedal now. At the end of round 2, scheduled for 6, remember, Yelistratov in the blue and yellow, Oboh the Nigerian, who took the first round on my card and may have just about pinched the second one as well, despite a brighter start for the Ukrainian. But that eye is definitely going to be a significant factor as this fight progresses. And you just get the sense, Bob, that Yelistratov doesn't quite know what to do with this fella, who is unorthodox to say the least.
That's right, he thought he was doing so well when he got him backed up, and he did hurt him, and he must have thought that he got a chance of finishing it then. And Oboh's sorted himself out and had the boost of the cut eye and has now got some confidence back. As you say, he's rough in there and he's awkward, and his punches, they're very light, flappy sort of things, but
But it is a scrappy affair, and that cut's starting to open up again.
yes, he warned Yelistratov for the head then as well, so...
Oboh slipped the punches nicely, but Yelistratov now boring in, giving Oboh a taste of his own medicine here. That head's really rubbing dangerously together, and I'm not sure that's a good move for Yelistratov, given the state of his right eye.
Now again, he's getting too close in there. He's a pace too far in. He lands a good body shot every so often, but he can't get any leverage in his punches to get full power.
He had a good 2-punch combination early in the last round, and as you say, a couple of body shots, but that's about it for the Ukrainian. That was a little bit sharper. But Oboh seemingly quite happy to hang around in that corner and let the Ukrainian come onto him. Well, thankfully for Yelistratov, the eye not worsening. Real scrappy, brawling type of contest, this one. Not one for the purists.
Definitely not. I don't think there are too many people going to be running to claim Mr. Oboh as an opponent in the near future. I think he's going to be fighting... Oof, good uppercut there.
Decent uppercut. Now, can he unload here? No, Oboh has come back again. Yeah, just to finish your point there, Bob, he's one of those guys who clearly can make you look bad.
That's right.
He seems to have taken that uppercut. He's got power on his side, a 30-pound weight advantage to the Ukrainian, don't forget, but he's got to make it work for him, and so far that hasn't happened.
Because this should really be his part of the contest, shouldn't it? The second half, when his strength should begin to make an impression, but as you say, he doesn't seem to have much of an idea of how to trap him.
That was a slap, drew a little bit of applause from at the back of the hall here at the York Hall, but it's definitely a slap on the arm, no damage done as far as Oboh is concerned. And he covers up well, Bob. It's very difficult to land a clean shot on him.
Yes, he's got his own style. It's an awkward style. He's southpaw. He's the wrong way round. He does everything wrong. He doesn't mind fighting inside, even when he's got a long reach advantage, and he doesn't mind being backed into corners. He's a handful. And then he comes running in like that with his head down.
Well, they're saying this game, protect yourself at all times. Oboh has taken that to extremes. Very, very effective, though. Can't see much of a career as a heavyweight for him, simply because he doesn't have the power. He's not going to be able to outgun anybody. But if he could think about going back down to cruiserweight, this fella could be quite a handful.
I'm sure he knows that that's where his future lies. I think he's just taken the work because he wants to get some paydays and some experience under his belt, and it's not a long fight. He can he can go 6 rounds all right if he's confident that he can deal with Yelistratov's power for 6 rounds. Then he's taken the fight and decided to get the payday. But yes, his future's as a cruiserweight.
And getting useful experience here against a much bigger and heavier man. Well, Peter Oboh here in this 4th round has done a pretty decent job of messing up the Ukrainian, who's bloodied, reddened, and I have to say confused. He's got his man in the corner and just doesn't know what to do with him.
Now, he does look very limited himself, doesn't he? We've talked a lot about Oboh, but Yelistratov frankly is a disappointment at the moment. He should be able to work this out by now, at least to land some punches.
It's following that pattern again. Oboh retreating into his shell and then just launching a flurry to get himself out of there. I have to say that possibly would be a mistake. If he enters into a slugging match with this fellow, he's not going to win it. But let's see if he's cooled his temper down a little bit. This, the 5th round, is scheduled for 6. Peter Oboh, the Nigerian cruiserweight, who stepped up a weight against Youri Yelistratov, who came into this fight, the Ukrainian, making his British debut with a reputation as being a little bit useful. But on this evidence, that reputation perhaps a little bit bloated, because Oboh's making him look very ordinary indeed.
Yes, it's not just that he's looked slow. You can expect that against a much lighter man, but he's looked ponderous and lacking in ideas and inspiration, and it doesn't seem to have any idea of how to break the defences down. He's just getting in range and wailing away.
And not scoring with much either. And you have to say Oboh isn't exactly setting the place on fire, but he's doing a very good spoiling job. I suppose as we get into the 5th round, Bob, with just one more to come after this, it's worth speculating on how our referee Tony Walker's going to score this one, because it won't be easy for him either.
No, it won't, but Oboh's the one who's landed the punches, so I mean, yes, you've said that they are light and they're just poking into the Ukrainian's face, but they're scoring. Right jab going in there.
Here we are again, the Nigerian cornered but completely at home.
Must say I was wrong. I didn't think he could stand in those corners and survive this, but he's a cute fighter, isn't he?
Well, we both said it, didn't we, at the start of that 2nd round, when he took that 2-punch combination early and went into his corner. We thought, mistake to stay there, but he knew what he was doing. He's worked out his opponent's weaknesses and he's traded on them very profitably. And Yelistratov doing nothing at all now. He's just boring in, hoping for the best, and then getting out when Oboh launches his own counter-attack. Very poor fare this from the Ukrainian.
Yes, he's just signed a deal with Frank Maloney, who was open and honest about it. He said, I don't know whether he can fight or not, but his record shows that he might have something, and so we'll see how he goes. The European champion is a man called Zelko Mavrovic of Croatia, who is frankly in a different league to this.
And breathing very heavily now as well, the Ukrainian. I wonder if he's running out of gas. Get ready for the last round. It's only going to take one shot for Yelistratov with that weight advantage. If he can land one cleanly, this thing can turn around in a hurry for him. That's the good news. The bad news is he's got 3 minutes to find it.
He's just got to throw everything in now, hasn't he? He's just got to come in whacking away and hope something lands, because he's tried to work it out and he hasn't done it, so he's just got to throw punches.
Well, you can't see Oboh hurting him, so he's got to go for broke, take some chances. But Oboh in that corner again. and just throwing more punches. Poor old Yelistratov, he just can't get him. Now we're going into the other corner.
Yeah, just for a change of scenery. Maybe the light was beginning to get in his eyes or something, so
But he can't get through the guard of the Nigerian, who's covering up with his gloves, with his arms, with his head when he has to. And I'm talking about the top of his head, which has been a factor in this fight.
yes, Oboh's not winning anything here. He's occasional flurries, but he's not landing much either. I think Yelistratov's he's won rounds on work rate when Oboh's done nothing for a while. But for me, he's not won the fight.
Just a touch of weariness there, perhaps, in the Nigerian. Getting waved on by his corner. Definitely gave his corner a look there, as if to say, I'm starting to feel this.
Yes, you can almost see it. He's fighting in little flurries, but he's taking more, isn't he?
He almost got tagged with a big one there. Just managed to move his chin to one side. Has Yelistratov got enough time to find a punch that could turn this thing dramatically around? It's a better round for him, simply because Oboh is running out of gas as we watch him.
But Yelistratov's just following him around the ring. He's not cutting the ring off. He really is very disappointing. There's a lot of work to be done on him to make him into a decent class heavyweight.
Yes, and the learning process starts here. Go away and look at the tape of this and see what you did wrong against an opponent who came to spoil, who used his speed and did so very effectively. This is one of those fights you just don't know how it's going to go. I think if you go on work rate alone, then perhaps you've just got to give it to the Nigerian. I wouldn't be completely shocked if Yelistratov edged it. But whatever happens, Bob, the Ukrainian hasn't exactly set the place on fire tonight.
No, he hasn't. And Oboh's done enough to make him a man to avoid in the future, I think.
That's it. Tony Walker will now make the decision and goes correctly, in our view, for the Nigerian, Peter Oboh, who sinks to his knees in relief, giving up 30 pounds in weight and used a lot of craft and a lot of guile and doing just enough work to pinch the decision off, we have to say, a very disappointing Youri Yelistratov. And you wonder how much Frank Maloney's got invested in this fella, because Frank will have to go away and look at his books again and say, well, this guy's going to be a long-term project. So Peter Oboh retains his unbeaten record, stepping up into the heavyweight division. Youri Yelistratov loses his. We have to say that the official, Tony Walker, our referee, got that one absolutely right. Now let's hear the score. By a couple of rounds. Bob, does that seem just about right to you?
Yes, absolutely right. Yeah, 3 rounds to 1, 2 even.
So Peter Oboh leaves the ring still unbeaten, but it's back to the drawing board for